My name is Barb Shaw. I was 40 years old when I found out that I had breast cancer. On January 23rd, I found my lump. On the 27th, I was told I had cancer. They told me I was going to do 6 rounds of chemo. I had a lot of allergic reactions to my chemo, had a lot of side effects. Most of them were severe. The doctor had to change up my chemo in the end, and I ended up getting 9 rounds of chemo. So I found a lump one day when I was going to go sit with my stepsister while she was having chemo, and I probably wouldn't have thought much of it. If she wouldn't have been going through treatments at the time, I probably would have blown it off. And I felt really stupid when I found my lump because it was about the size of a quarter, and I'm like, how could have I ever missed this? And right away he's like, it's fine, I don't think you have anything to worry about. And this was like at 11 o'clock in the morning. He goes, but I'm gonna schedule you for a sonogram and a mammogram. And I thought, oh, 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road. At 1 o'clock that day, I had my first mammogram. And they were very wonderful at Women's Wellness in Effingham. They were very supportive and made me feel very comfortable. And I left there and they're like, we have your sonogram scheduled in 5 minutes at the hospital. I'm like, for me not worrying about anything, this is really scaring me. So I headed over to the hospital, and a tech came in to do my sonogram, and she's like, I have a student with me, do you mind if she sits in? And I said, no, that's fine. And the minute they touched the wand to me, the tech looked over at the student, and the student was like. And about that time, a young lady walked into the waiting room where Daryl and I were sitting, and she goes, hi, my name is Shannon. And I started crying, and she goes, don't cry, we don't know anything yet. And I looked at her and I said, I'm Leanne's sister. And she laid my papers down and she goes, then you know why I'm here. Yeah. So that was tough. But my daughter was 15, and it scared her to death. She struggled a lot. I wondered if I was gonna live or not. So that part was very hard, to try to show her that I was going to be okay at a time when I didn't know. Looking back, every day I tried to put my best foot forward, and I tried to get dressed and feel good about myself, and that was tough because I got to the point I had so much pain, and I was so very sick with my chemo that looking back at pictures, I looked tough. I got real puffy, looking like, when somebody's on steroids or their body's retaining fluid. It's still hard for me to go back and look at those pictures. Life-changing. I had never had a mammogram. I had went for my yearly physical, and the doctor told me, go get a mammogram, and I'm like, I'll be fine. So, it's never gonna happen to me. That's how I was. I was very lucky that I caught it. Because even though you do self-exams, if the cancer is back against your chest wall, you may never ever feel it. So that's where your mammograms come in. I didn't feel bad. I felt wonderful, and I actually had lost like 30 pounds, and I was exercising, and looking back at pictures, I was the picture of health. So when I found that lump, I was that person that this isn't gonna happen to me, this can't be happening to me, this can't be happening to our family. It strikes out of nowhere, and it doesn't matter who you are, skinny, overweight, what your nationality is, it doesn't matter, young, old, it can happen to you at any time. I had about 2 weeks in there that I was pretty mad, and then I woke up one morning and I thought, you know what, I can either be mad or I can be proactive and get as educated as I can, and I can put my best foot forward and put a smile on my face, because that may be all I have to offer somebody today. So, and honestly, attitude is huge going through this. If you go through it with the attitude of boo-hoo, poor me, or, I'm not gonna make it, you're gonna have a rough time through treatment. You are.
My name is Linda Regal. I'm 69 years old. I was diagnosed when I was 44. I'm a nurse. I will admit that I did not do self-exam at that time because I felt I was very young. It was 25 years ago. So I inadvertently touched myself while I was lying in bed and found a lump. And course I was wondering what it was and hoping that it wasn't breast cancer, but because we were so aware of it at that time or any time, and the fact that I was a nurse. So within 2 weeks I had been seen by the doctor, had a biopsy, and had a mastectomy. And of course it's very scary if anybody is told they have breast cancer and you don't know the extent of it. I did lose my hair. You know, at that time they said, oh, maybe you won't lose your hair, and we put ice caps on our head and did all kinds of things, but it didn't work. We lost our hair. And I chose to get a wig.
I think the important thing for family members is to always remember that you have to be up and supportive of your spouse. And you have to be prepared for side effects of the chemotherapy. She had a reaction not to the chemo, but to the prednisone, which is given to offset the side effects of the chemo.
I was on large doses, and all my joints would ache so bad and hurt. And I would get up in the middle of the night and cry because I hurt so bad. So I was going along regularly, having my mammograms every 6 months, and 10 years later, I developed cancer in the other breast when I had my routine mammogram. So with that one, it was intraductal, which means it was just in the little milk ducts, and it wasn't in the tissue. So that time they did a lumpectomy. You still had a choice, but they said, you know, there was no reason.
She called me at work and told me that she just simply had to go back to the hospital to see the doctor. And I still remember you told me it would be easy to die.
Yeah, sometimes you feel that way because you just are miserable. We did say, he said to me one time, we can cry one time, but that's it. We're not going to cry anymore. And it's 25 years later.
My name is Doug Knable. I was Jennifer Knable's husband. We lost Jennifer in January of 2015 after a long battle with breast cancer. Jen and I got married in March of 2010. She turned 40 that July, and then that October, about 6 months after we got married, she found a lump. The Simon Cancer Center, where everything was confirmed. Jen had a mastectomy probably in that November, and then it was determined right after that it was stage 4. That when they did the mastectomy, they had removed the breast and took the lymph nodes and found the head spread, and there had been there were some small spots in kind of her skeletal region. And then once you get that diagnosis that it's stage 4, the first thing her oncologist told us was, at that point, it's not a matter of curing cancer; it's a matter of quality of life. It was quite an adventurous 6 to 9 months. Again, right after we were starting our life together. But from the very beginning, Jen's concern was her family and how it was going to affect them, especially her girls. And she has Carson and Caddy. She was 40 years old. Matter of fact, it was right after or during this time, I can remember somebody came out with a report or a study saying that really the need to have a mammogram, maybe now before 50, they were maybe trying to push it back. And here Jen is in the prime of her life, at 40, and had she had annual mammograms, this probably could have been detected. And I think looking back with everything that happened, there's many regrets, but the one is could we have caught it earlier? Obviously we didn't catch it soon enough because it was already stage 4.
She had like medicines that she took, and then didn't she have to go like?
It was hormonal treatment for the first couple years because they was estrogen receptive or positive. So basically she had a hysterectomy, and so they were able to treat it that way initially for about 2 years. And Carson's right. I mean, that's the thing we always said about Jen is, if you didn't know she had cancer, you wouldn't have known it because, you know, we knew it because you could see her, but I mean, when she was out in public and she continued to work, and I mean, it was her goal to stay active and stay alive, you know, for her family, for her girls. And so the first couple years, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, really, other than those treatments that Carson talked about, you know, you really wouldn't have known it.
Well,
it was about a year ago. The blood test came back that something was rough, something wasn't right, and so they did a scan and had determined that it had the tumors had started to form a little bit in her liver, and at that point, you know, chemo was what was being introduced, and again, it was late summer that fall, because we ended up, before she lost her hair, we wanted to get a family picture taken, and so we took everybody up to Ramsey, and that would have been October, November. She would have to get the chemo, and then her white blood count would get down, so then if she'd get the shot the day after Avasta or Lasta or something like that, I don't know what it is, but it helps to generate your white blood count, and the side effect.
Like, she always said that it wasn't her chemo, she always felt like it was the shot, and it just made her like really sore and really tired, and she just like would just feel like there'd be like a day after the shot and she just wouldn't be able to work, and she'd just have to like lay in bed all day because it would make her like
ached, you know, her legs, her bones, I mean, and you couldn't rub them enough. I mean, you know, you could give her a massage all day long, and you know, and the minute you'd stop, it would hurt. So yeah, well, I mean, the thing is just, you know, to support them as much as you can, just to tell them you love them, to, you know, just to be there for them, even if, you know, you feel helpless because there's a lot of times there's nothing you can do, but even just being there to talk to them, to lay with them, to hold their hand, you know, it's so important just to let them know that they're not alone, that they're, you know, that they're not in this fight by themselves.
Be proactive. Go have your mammograms. Talk to your doctor if there is cancer anywhere in your family. Go have tests ran. Don't, if you hit dead ends or you have a doctor that's saying, no, you're too young, don't worry about it. It's your body. You make the decision. Have the test ran. At least you'll know. The doctors will have a base to go on. And hopefully nothing will ever happen. Hopefully you'll never get that phone call that your tests were positive. But at least you'll know. You'll be able to help somebody else around you or educate them.
It's important to be aggressive with your own care.
yes.
You need to trust your doctor, but you need to trust your own feelings also.
Yeah. So, and I would just say to young people, you do have to check yourself and think, oh, I'm young, it won't happen, because it does.
And I think you also have to realize that there are changes in your wife's body that you have to accept.
And that's one thing he never cared about.
But also for the caregivers to, you know, to take care of yourselves. You know, if you need to seek out counseling or friends to talk to, because it is a lot to take on, to keep, you know, to yourself. And you know, Jen wouldn't have wanted anybody to, you know, she didn't want to burden anybody. So you know, you got to make sure that as you go through this process, that, you know, you're taking care of yourself as a caregiver too, because it is a demanding, you know, but at the same time very rewarding, because again, you know, even though Jen's battle's over, you know, to see the reward at the end with just how much of an impact she had in people's lives. I mean, you know, I'm changed forever. I mean, our time together wasn't near long enough, but you know, I wouldn't have traded any of it for the world.